In this episode, we talk about how to find fulfillment. Get excited because this is Tiny Leaps, Big Change. Welcome to another episode of Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, where I share simple strategies you can use to get more out of your life. My name is Gregg Clunis, and in this episode, we are looking at a topic that many of us are searching for throughout our lives, in every area of our life. Fulfillment in our relationships, in our career, in our bodies, in our day-to-day lives with our families. We're all looking for this thing, this feeling of being fulfilled. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately because it's something that I obviously am searching for as well. But it really dawned on me that I don't think many of us ever take the time to define what fulfillment actually is, what it means to us, and then look at how you can include it in your life, how you can get more of it. So in this episode, I want to do exactly that. Now, before we jump into today's episode, let's talk about today's sponsor. We all know how important our mental health is when trying to make big changes in our lives. Simply put, without taking care of our mental and emotional health, we won't be able to take the tiny leaps we need in order to move forward. That's why today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest counseling service. It's 100% online and has helped 759,000 people just like you. With BetterHelp, you can get the support you need easily. Simply make an account, answer a few questions to be matched with the perfect counselor, and you're good to go. You can speak with your counselor in whatever way you want, via text, chat, phone, or video sessions. And you can get the help you need exactly when you need it by messaging your counselor anytime, anywhere, or scheduling a live session at a time that's convenient for you. Every counselor is licensed, professional, and thoroughly vetted, so you can breathe easy knowing that you'll get the help you need. So take control of your mental health in 2020 by going to www.betterhelp.com/tinyleaps. That's www.betterhelp.com/tinyleaps. When you sign up today, you'll get 10% off your first month. So head over to betterhelp.com/tinyleaps and get started right now. When it comes to beauty products, we have so many choices. So why not ask for more from your favorite brands? Well, that's why I recently partnered with Thrive Causemetics. Thrive Causemetics products are made with high-performance, skin-loving ingredients. Their clinically proven formulas highlight your best features with long-lasting wear. Now, they recently sent Rachel and I some products to try out, and honestly, it was an amazing experience. I've been using their Bright Balance 3-in-1 cleanser basically every night before bed, and it leaves my face feeling soft and renewed, and I have particularly dry skin, but I found that after using this cleanser, it's not as big of an issue. Thrive Causemetics Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara is sold every 7 seconds and has over 7,000 five-star reviews online. Rachel has actually been using their mascara, and she's absolutely in love with it. In fact, she said that it has become one of her favorite mascaras. For every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics helps women in need thrive by donating funds or products. So start thriving and help women in need today by going to thrivecausemetics.com/tinyleaps and use the code TINYLEAPS for 15% off your first purchase. That's Thrive Causemetics, spelled CAUSEMETICS. thrivecausemetics.com/tinyleaps and use the code TINYLEAPS for 15% off. All right, so let's talk about fulfillment. The first place to start, if we want to learn how to find fulfillment in our lives, is to clearly define what fulfillment means to us, what it is exactly. And to start that process off, I'm going to look at the dictionary and just read off the two separate definitions that exist there. So the first definition goes like this, quote, the achievement of something desired, promised, or predicted. And then the second definition of the word fulfillment in the Webster's Dictionary is, quote, the meeting of a requirement or condition. So the basic idea of fulfillment based on the actual textbook definition of the term is one of two things: either achieving something, sort of gaining something and doing a thing you said you were going to do, i.e., achieving a goal that you've been working towards, or fulfilling sort of a requirement, something that someone else needs from you that you have now done. So, for example, if you get assigned homework and you actually turn in that homework, you have fulfilled that requirement. Now, here's my argument. Because as I was looking through these definitions, it dawned on me that neither of these are actually valuable for our day-to-day lives, right? Because on a day-to-day basis, we aren't achieving goals. Achieving a goal is a long-term thing. It's something we are working towards. And if we tie fulfillment to that, then that means we're only going to be fulfilled half the time, a quarter of the time, a tenth of the time. Think about it. You spend far more time working towards a goal than you do achieving a goal. So if you tie fulfillment, that feeling of fulfillment in your life, to the achievement of a goal, you will spend far more time not being fulfilled than you will spend being fulfilled. And that's a horrible way to live our lives. So that's the problem with the first definition of the term. The second one isn't super relevant to our day-to-day lives either, because that requires an external source to put a requirement on us. So, for example, you might feel fulfilled at work because your boss asked you to do something, you did it, and you got praised for it. That does feel fulfilling. But the problem again is that requires an external force. That is not something you can control. And so you'll spend your entire life searching for some external force to put something on you, to place some requirement on you in order for you to accomplish it and get that feeling of fulfillment. So neither of these definitions really work in our search if we're looking for a way to bring fulfillment into our lives on a day-to-day basis. Not something long-term, not something we experience a tenth of the time, and not something we have to search for someone else to give us. And that brings me to my next argument. I believe, as I've been thinking through this, that fulfillment is actually not an outcome. Fulfillment isn't something you find. It's not something you earn. It's not something you work towards. Fulfillment is a feeling. Fulfillment is an internal feeling that you have, an emotion that you have, that you can create on a day-to-day basis. So here's my proposed new definition of fulfillment. Fulfillment is a feeling you get when you've left everything on the field. Now, here's what I mean by that. Think about something you've done recently, some task you were working on, some goal you were working towards where you felt fulfilled, right? So going back to those two original definitions, was it that achieving that goal is what got you to feel fulfilled, or was it knowing that you did everything you possibly could? See, my argument is that it's purely circumstantial that you actually felt fulfilled while also achieving the thing. I believe that if you went into something and you put everything you had into it, you gave every single ounce of energy, used every minute that you possibly could spare, and you put it all into that thing, and you left everything on the field, even if it doesn't work out, even if it never actually happens for you, I believe you'll still feel fulfilled. I believe that you go to sleep that night still feeling like, you know what? I did it. I did my part. Because subconsciously, you know that there are so many things outside of your control. You know that a goal isn't something you achieve purely by your own work ethic. It's not purely under your control. There's so many other people and things that can get in the way, things that can stop you from achieving that goal that no matter how hard you work, you just may not be able to accomplish. For example, I've always had the goal of retiring my parents. That was something that I grew up holding on to. It became the driving force behind all of the businesses I've started to this point, and it became the driving force behind this business for a long time. Now, here's the thing. My father passed away 3 years ago. I can never retire him. That's completely out of my control. That's not a goal I can accomplish anymore. And that's not through any fault of my own. Now, I could look at it and say, oh, it's my fault because I didn't do it sooner and blah, 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 blah. Like, there's a million ways that I can blame myself for it. But the truth is, that goal just wasn't going to get accomplished because there were external sources that made it impossible. Now, I can look at that goal and still feel fulfilled, though, because I can still look at where I am and how much work I did to get to this point and recognize that, hey, you know what? I didn't accomplish that goal and I will never accomplish that goal. But I left it all on the field. I tried the hardest I could. I put everything I had into it. I sacrificed everything that I needed to sacrifice to make it possible. I can still get that feeling of fulfillment. So I think it's important that we make this distinction between fulfillment as something tied to an outcome, something tied to achievement, fulfillment as something tied to completing a requirement that someone else placed on you, and fulfillment, the feeling of putting it all out there and doing the best that you can, regardless of the outcome that occurs. So with that said, here's what I want to leave you with. Fulfillment is not about the outcome. Fulfillment is a feeling. It's a feeling you get when you've left it all on the table, and that is completely in your control. You can choose to use every second. You can choose to try as hard as you can. You can choose to learn as much as you need to. You can choose to take action and work towards a goal. And in that action, every night when you go to sleep, when you lay your head on that pillow, you can go to sleep smiling with that feeling of being fulfilled, of finding fulfillment in your work, in whatever thing you are working towards, in your practice. That is what fulfillment is, and that is something you can add to your life, you can make in your life. But first, you have to change the way that you think about it. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe wherever you are consuming this. If you're over on YouTube, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this episode. And if you're listening to the podcast, join us over on YouTube at youtube.com/Gregg Clunis and then drop a comment on the video. Thank you so much for being here. I've been Gregg Clunis, and remember that all big changes come from the tiny leaps you take every day.